This is the continued testimony of alleged victim Mia, testifying under a pseudonym. There is a lot to break down with respect to her direct testimony, her cross-examination by the defense. Remember yesterday, she testified that she was verbally, physically, sexually assaulted by Sean Combs, goes to potentially forced labor as the underlying crime of racketeering. Remember, prosecutors have to prove at least 2 underlying crimes of racketeering. Forced labor is one of them. I also think her testimony goes to this pattern of criminal activity for racketeering.
The whole courtroom fell silent when the name Janice Combs was called. Who exactly is Diddy's mother in this vicious enterprise? And why could the testimony of someone once considered Diddy's right-hand man be the pivotal factor that takes the whole Combs family to its knees here in Manhattan this morning in federal court? When the unexpected witness, who had previously been believed to be Diddy's fiercely loyal confidant, came forward with a suitcase full of documents, audio recordings, and long-buried secrets. It was not what Diddy had done that was shocking, but rather the name Mia kept repeating. Janice Combs, Diddy's own mother.
Producer Tim Dog Patterson, he alleged that Janice, Diddy's mom, would often throw parties at Diddy's childhood home.
Rejuvenate you. She likes allegedly to have threesomes with her son. You know how you and your son play with my friend underage in the bed, Janice? It started with her.
In the public eye, Janice was a gentle old mother. But now, she is exposed as a cunning genius who operates in the background and quietly turned Sean Combs into a power tool who would do whatever it took to establish an empire founded on wealth, violence, and peace. What if Diddy's mother was never seen as a threat by the public? Layer by layer, the truth is emerging, and the name Janice Combs, once known only as the defendant's mother, may suddenly be the key to unlocking the shocking truth of this explosive case. Did a force even stronger than Diddy himself order Mia to betray him? Or was it an act of courageous rebellion for justice?
I've lived in fear for far too long. Diddy and his mother Janice backed me into a corner. They thought they could silence me, but today I'm here to tell the truth, the whole truth, no matter how painful it is. I'm not just doing this for myself, but for all the women they turned into pawns, the voiceless victims. I won't let them hide in the shadows any longer.
The courtroom fell silent as a lady who was only known by the nickname Mia, a name chosen to conceal her identity, took the witness stand. The hush was heavy with the tension of an impending storm. Diddy's dependable aide of 7 long years, Mia, stood there like a ticking time bomb as whispers stirred through the audience. Mia was more than a witness. She was a survivor who had spent nearly a decade witnessing and enduring the Combs family's deepest secrets. Her hands were shaking, and her eyes were steely. Her testimony wasn't merely an accusation. Rather, it was a slash of reality that shocked the world as it cut through the Combs family's pristine facade. Diddy Combs, the music industry magnate, was the real puppeteer, the brains behind his criminal business, and the one who shaped Diddy into the monster he is today was his mother. Janice Combs is not the pitiful mother who is shown in the media sobbing without cause. A ruthless madam, Janice was a cunning manipulator at the center of a horrifying criminal enterprise.
You heard about how Diddy mom came out defending him? She made a comment saying that Diddy is not a monster.
Yeah, he not a monster. She is. But I don't want to go there. But she is. She's the fucking monster. Everything in her fucking name. She's the monster. She created that. I don't want to go there. The fucking satanic behind all this shit. It's her. It's her, bro. It's her. She is his. I can't even explain it, bro. She just ain't no, she the devil, bro. That's how I see it. She the devil. Janice Combs is the fucking devil.
Janice Combs isn't just Diddy's mother. She's the cunning mastermind, the architect behind every heinous act. Diddy may be the monster in the public's eyes, but it was Janice who forged him, carefully steering him step by step into the abyss of corruption.
Mia's powerful testimony in court demonstrated with frightening truth and deliberate brutality that Janice was more than just a mother going unnoticed. She was the linchpin in the very center of a criminal enterprise built on the blood and tears of young women. She chose the victims herself. They were driven young dancers with a lot of... She preyed on the most impressionable, naive, and inexperienced. Female assistants, few of them were old enough to comprehend societal norms. With her voice shaking with grief, Mia stated that many girls, some of whom had only completed middle school, had nowhere to turn and were easily swayed by the glamour of Hollywood and the promise of a great future.
She had a modeling agency, but it wasn't a modeling agency. It was more a brothel that she ran for high-profile drug dealers and athletes.
Beneath that sparkling facade, Janice was a strong woman and a prosperous businesswoman who operated a prominent modeling agency that was heavily promoted as a breeding ground for up-and-coming talent. However, the company was nothing more than a sophisticated front for a global call-girl operation behind that sparkling facade. Through Janice's network, young women were used as tools to satisfy the nefarious desires of the wealthy and powerful in both major American cities and international entertainment hubs. Mia cried as she described how the words seemed to shatter her heart.
To Janice and Diddy, those girls weren't human beings. They were commodities, carefully packaged gifts to be traded with heavyweights from powerful politicians and entertainment moguls to shadowy billionaires, all in exchange for multi-million-dollar deals or to solidify ties of influence.
Diddy's infamous freak-off parties, which gathered ladies from Janice's network, were merciless venues where victims were made to serve during laborious ordeals that lasted for days or even weeks, rather than being lavish affairs. With haunting memories in her voice, Mia told the story. Every girl for these parties was handpicked by Janice, who carefully considered each one's age, appearance, and demeanor to ensure that it suited the VIP clientele's preferences. Some of the girls were recruited because they were innocent, but others were forced to fulfill standards that were far more evil and terrible.
What's crazy is there's a video of him and his mother. They're really talking about sexual stuff together. Him and his mom.
Each female was a pawn on the Combs family's power chessboard, strategically positioned to secure financial gain or safety from influential individuals, according to Janice. Mia stated in a voice full of wrath that they sometimes signed lucrative deals and paid extra for a female gift.
Janice called it the art of business, but to me, it was unforgivable cruelty.
Her cunning went far beyond establishing the network. She personally oversaw every facet of the illicit business, from selecting victims and completing transactions to ensuring that no information was ever disclosed to the public. She was a skilled strategist who turned young girls' dreams into certain nightmares while never leaving a trace. Her eyes were sharp and her smile was caustic. All of her actions were well considered.
If anyone dared to speak out, Janice made sure they vanished, not just from the entertainment industry, but from the face of the earth.
Even worse, according to Mia's testimony, was what lay behind the Combs family's extravagant mansion. Beneath the glitzy lights of extravagant parties, a terrifying secret festered. In a captivity den where dozens of young women were detained under the close supervision of Janice Combs. In the courtroom, Mia revealed this. It was more than just a cold basement. Den, as Janice called it, was an underground prison where girls were dehumanized and used as tools to satisfy the evil desires of VIP clients whenever they wanted to. Mia's voice sounded as if it were being choked by the memory when she remembered.
But for the girls trapped down there, it was a living hell, a place where light, hope, and humanity itself were snuffed out.
There was no way to understand the cruelty of the basement conditions. The girls were housed in cramped, gloomy rooms with cold concrete walls and the stench of mildew, and they were given only 2 meals a day, usually a bowl of weak soup and a few slices of stale bread. Mia reported feeling tears streaming down her face. Eating too, Janice had added. Given that clients don't desire girls with faults, they would gain weight. Even though some of them were so thin that they were only skin and bones, with eyes sunken from starvation and despair, she didn't care, since, in her opinion, they weren't human. They were just products that could be used whenever they wanted. To ensure that no girl dared to resist, Janice instituted a cruel system of control, but her cruelty didn't end with starvation.
If anyone dared to complain or resist, Janice would personally appear, her icy smile and voice sharp as a blade, threatening that they would never see the light of day again.
Her elegant demeanor and deft manipulation meant that the women held captive in her lair were mostly the objects of deceptive promises. Janice created traps for the most vulnerable orphans, individuals fleeing broken houses, and middle school dropouts with her seductive tales of celebrity. She had aspirations of getting modeling contracts in Hollywood and earning enormous ditties. Notorious freak-off parties, where these women were hauled up from the basement, were not considered elegant events by the public, but as soon as they stepped into her business, everything was taken away from them, including their freedom and identification certificates, and they were taken to the basement, where their lives were never again theirs. Mia and other witnesses, including Cassandra Cassie Ventura, reported that during these exhausting ordeals, which could go on for days or weeks, the girls had to serve a constant stream of VIP clients, politicians, business magnates, and influential entertainment personalities. One female passed out after 4 days without sleep or rest. Mia spoke, her voice shaking with anger, while Janice just stood. I'm not sure what kind of stimulant Diddy's guys would inject or force the women to take, but it left them dizzy and without willpower, making them obey like marionettes on strings while serving VIP guests. He continued, grinning. She's not worthy of the opportunity. She's too weak. Was presented as a perverted opportunity, a mirage created by under the guise of control, Janice and Diddy promised their victims that if they were lucky enough to catch the eye of someone in a position of authority, they might be freed from the basement and given a better life, but in exchange, some girls had to be subjected to continuous physical and psychological abuse until their bodies failed them, and they were too weak to bear it. Mia described how her eyes were red and disturbed. They were drugged to stay awake, forced to undergo atrocities that no one should ever have to experience, and if they didn't want to, Janice would physically materialize with cold eyes and threatened to either permanently lock them in the basement or worse, to kill them in—
I'm still haunted by the look in their eyes.
Mia's voice shook as she remembered being sent to the basement to pick up the girls for their duties, and they stared at me pleadingly as if I were their only hope. But I was powerless because I was only an assistant, and I knew too well that if I resisted, I would be the next one locked up. I will never be able to forgive myself for being blind to Mia's admission of the brutality of the den in that basement, even though I could hear their faint sobs and felt every step she took as if it were a blade piercing her heart. I lived in constant fear down there, torn between my conscience and my survival. It was not just in the appalling living conditions or the agony at those deranged freak-off parties, but also in the way Janice tracked those young women down, treating them like items, and Mia told each customer each girl's name, age, and even value, treating them like inventory in a storehouse. If a girl was ineffective, Janice would dismiss her without hesitation, even if her calculating, cold efficiency had turned the Combe family basement into a place where dreams were crushed and people were crushed underfoot. Mia brought a plethora of meticulously gathered evidence to the witness stand, along with her heartfelt stories, which were enough to hold a small, unobtrusive USB stick that was filled with terrifying secrets, and in one clip, secret audio recordings. Made with Janice's cold, razor-sharp voice and carefully backed up from the old phone she used to work for, the Combs family revealed the harsh reality of the family's illicit business, shocking the entire courtroom. The voice slashed through, the air like a blade, saying, "If there is a leak, you know how I'll handle it. No mercy." Another tape captured her shrewd scheming as she ordered her son, her words full of calculated cruelty.
Pick this girl for the deal with him. She's got the look he's into. If he's pleased, that $50 million contract is as good as ours.
But the USB was just the start. Mia played 6 recordings that were painstakingly collected throughout her years, from 2018 to 2022, and each word exposed the cruelty of the Combs pair, who viewed people as nothing more than commodities to be exchanged for money and influence. While working for Diddy, they captured his dubious interactions with high-profile clients, such as a powerful woman whose name Mia withheld for fear of her safety, who can be seen in one video negotiating a young woman's present with Diddy. Following their departure from the courtroom, another video stunned silence. At a freak-off party, Janice was seen making lubricants, bed linens, and even drugs with terrifying accuracy. She didn't just know about it all, Mia said in a trembling voice of outrage.
She orchestrated every detail, from picking which girl would serve to arranging the deals so flawlessly that no slip-up could ever be traced.
Mia's evidence was primarily based on security camera footage from the Combs family's lavish mansion. One eerie clip, shot on a dark night, showed a young girl, weak and trembling, being led by a bodyguard out of the hidden basement. She didn't dare cry, but her eyes were filled with fear. Mia described tears streaming down her cheeks, and I knew she was being taken to a... I was powerless to save Janice, and another piece of footage is said to have caused visible outrage. Judge Aaron Subramanian has shown Janice at a freak-off party with a faint smile and icy gaze, instructing staff to prepare everything like an event planner, but instead of a normal celebration, it was a cruel ordeal for the captive girls. Mia also displayed a number of bank transaction logs that revealed the Combs family used their intricate financial system to conceal their illicit activities and launder money, which they called commission. 5 shell companies, including a fashion label, a music studio, and an event planning company, were set up specifically to transfer gifts in cash or in the form of girls to influential figures in entertainment, politics, and business, Mia said bitterly.
I once heard Janice boast about how one girl secured them a deal worth tens of millions. To her, every girl was just a number, a tool to bolster their power and pile up wealth.
Mia shared images of the messages that Diddy and Janice sent, which graphically portrayed a criminal organization centered on deceit and exploitation with their suspicious cash flows and fuzzy statistics. Mia, in a shaky voice, added, "The Combs pair's blatant cruelty, treating people like objects, was demonstrated by their refusal to converse or to get female number 3 ready for tonight. They serve clients the chilling commands by pulling females out of the basement." Mia stirred things up when she presented a list of VIP clients who received gifts from the Combs family. But Janice was not just a participant. She was the mastermind, in charge of everything from choosing which girl would be sent to concealing the transactions. The courtroom list included powerful figures from politics and entertainment, but Mia specifics for fear of retaliation, claiming that these individuals were not just clients, but also part of the network that was involved in keeping the basement den up to date. A piece of video footage from the mansion system showed a hidden passageway leading to the basement, where dozens of girls were imprisoned in the dark while they awaited their horrible fates.
That tunnel was a symbol of depravity. It wasn't just a place to confine those girls, it was where the Combs family buried their humanity.
With their shell companies, the Combs pair's cunning went beyond simply using the girls as leverage. They established a sophisticated financial system to launder funds and hide the source of their massive profits, making every transaction look like a legitimate business transaction. For example, a music studio could make millions of dollars. These documents, along with the audio recordings and videos, painted a horrifying picture of a criminal network organized with the precision and ruthlessness of a major corporation. A fashion company would use the funds for a marketing campaign that was actually payment to VIP clients, or they would record projects that never materialized.